So here's a question for you. What happens when two people start with the exact same amount of money, but take two completely different paths over 5 of the most chaotic years we've seen in a long, long time? Well, we're about to find out.
The setup couldn't be simpler, but the outcome? Well, it's anything but. We're talking about the exact same money, but, as you'll see, a profoundly different fate. This is the classic story, the saver versus the investor. Okay, let's meet our contenders. In this corner, we've got Saver Sam. His whole game plan is about one thing: capital preservation. Don't lose the money. His tool of choice? Good old-fashioned cash, stashed in a high-yield savings account. And in the other corner, we have Investor Ian. He's playing a totally different game. His goal is wealth maximization, and his tool is the S&P 500.
Now, this is the most important part. Despite their completely opposite philosophies, their discipline was identical. Both Sam and Ian, they each put away exactly $1,000 every single month without fail for 5 straight years.
So, let's set the stage. Our clock starts ticking on January 1st, 2020. 2 identical paths starting at the exact same moment.
And the race kicks off just as the world is about to get turned upside down. These first couple of years were defined by, the pandemic shock, and then that unbelievable, almost surreal market recovery that followed. And right out of the gate, investor Ian just explodes into the lead. I mean, by the end of 2020, he's already ahead. But look at the end of 2021. At the peak of all that market craziness, it's not even a competition. Ian is just absolutely crushing it.
And that gap was getting pretty wide. At the end of year 2, Ian's strategy of taking on risk had already put him almost $7,000 ahead of Sam. To anyone watching, it looked like this race was basically over. But then, 2022 happened, the great test. Inflation, which had been kind of a background noise, just roared to life, hitting 40-year highs. And the markets, well, they fell off a cliff. This was the moment of truth.
And here is the massive plot twist. For the very first time, Sam, our cautious saver, is in the lead. He's put in 36 grand and he has a little bit more than that. But look at Ian. He's also put in $36,000. But his account is worth almost $4,000 less. He is officially, on paper, losing money. And you can just feel the pain in this number. From its peak, the market had plunged over 25%. Can you imagine that? Watching all your hard-earned money just vanish like that, month after month? Ian wasn't just losing to Sam anymore, he was getting absolutely hammered. And this really is the question, isn't it? Everything you thought you knew is failing. The safe path suddenly looks brilliant. Your friends are probably telling you you're crazy. Every single instinct in your body is screaming at you to sell, to just stop the bleeding. This is the exact moment most people give up. So, would you? But while Ian was fighting this very visible battle with his account balance, Sam was fighting an invisible enemy, inflation. His dollars were safe, sure, but their purchasing power, what they could actually go out and buy, was being silently eaten alive. But Ian didn't quit. He just stuck to the plan. And what came next was this incredible comeback, a comeback that was actually powered by the very downturn that caused him so much pain. It's what you might call the wealth slingshot. See, while everyone else was panicking back in 2022, every single $1,000 investment Ian made was buying up way more shares, all at a massive discount. He was, in effect, pulling back a financial slingshot, just waiting for the market to turn around. And you can see that slingshot effect right here on this timeline. In 2022, Sam's on top. In 2023, that lead starts to shrink. But then look at 2024. Ian doesn't just catch up, he rockets past Sam, opening up a $16,000 lead. And just like that, the race was over. So, after 5 years, 60 identical contributions, 1 pandemic, 1 brutal market crash, and 1 historic recovery, where did our 2 contenders actually end up? Honestly, the final number is pretty staggering. Over $31,000. That was the final gap. By sticking with a strategy that felt terrible in the short term, Ian finished more than 31 grand ahead of Sam. And this chart really just says it all, doesn't it? That $60,000 in contributions turned into a little over $66,000 for Saver Sam.
Not bad. But for investor Ian, that same $60,000 grew to almost $97,500. The difference is just undeniable.
But this right here, this might be the most important slide of the whole thing. Because when you factor in the 24.4% inflation over this period, Sam's quote-unquote safe strategy actually lost almost $7,000 in real-world buying power. He went backward. Ian, on the other hand, didn't just beat inflation, he grew his actual purchasing power by over $18,000. He was the only one who truly got richer.
So what did we learn here? Well, first, that playing it safe in the short term can actually be a losing game in the long term. Second, that gut-wrenching volatility, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's the price of admission for higher returns. And the biggest irony of all, the worst year to feel like an investor, 2022, was the single most important year for building Ian's wealth. It just goes to show you, sometimes the biggest risk you can take is doing nothing at all.
And that really leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? Sam thought he was avoiding all the risk by staying in cash. But what he was really doing was guaranteeing he'd lose purchasing power. Ian accepted the obvious risk of the market going up and down to avoid that much more dangerous, invisible risk of simply falling behind. So I guess the question is, which risk are you taking?